ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to call this meeting to order of the Tallahassee City Commission. It is Wednesday, March 6th at 3:01 in the afternoon, and we are officially 202 days old as of right now. How about that? What a great week celebrating the bicentennial, and kudos to the team for that fantastic ceremony on Monday in front of City Hall. So it's my honor and privilege to introduce Dr. Judy Mandrell, Reverend Mandrell from Life Changers Church of God in Christ, who will be providing our invocation. Pastor Judy, thank you so much for joining us. Will you please stand for the invocation?
God, we thank you for another day that you have allowed us to gather here, come before you for our city. We thank you for every elected official. We thank you that there will be a great meeting today. We thank you that the presence of peace will reign in this place. We thank you for the love that you're giving to us one for another. We thank you for this great city of Tallahassee. 200 years you've allowed us to be here. We've progressed. We've made some good endeavors, and we'll look for greater. But we see us in the future, and we'll look so much better than we do right now. And it's in the name of the God that we pray to. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Mandrell, thank you so much. We certainly do appreciate you opening our meeting up right. I would like to remind everybody here, we're going to have a great meeting today. It's a short meeting, but we're going to have a great meeting. Make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak that would like to speak. I'm going to ask everyone to please join me. Let's set the tone and show how democracy works on the local level as we broadcast all over the world. And I hope that everybody will show respect to one another and to each other's differing views as well. With that, Mr. Manager, do we have any agenda modifications?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. All right, we have one presentation. I'd like to call on my colleagues, Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox and Commissioner Jack Porter, to join down at the podium for a special presentation. In fact, I think we're all going to come down and join you all too. Yep.
Almost. You know, us girls, we figure these things out.
You want to invite?
Yes. We would love for all of the, well, we would love for the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls to join us, but we'd also like all women to stand and join us because we're celebrating all of us. I know it takes us a long time to get moving, but come on, we're going to come in a hurry.
Come on down.
Come on, Commissioners of Status of Women and Girls and all women. You notice that some of us are dressed in white, and if you don't know the story behind that, white is the color of women's suffrage that was adopted when we were fighting for our rights to vote. And so Commissioner Porter and I will read the proclamation in alternating paragraphs. From the governing body of the City of Tallahassee, a proclamation, whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, and
whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life of our nation, by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home, and
American women have played a unique role throughout the history of our nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and
whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders
in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And
whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military, and
whereas American women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And
whereas, despite these contributions, the role of American women in history consistently has been overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now, therefore, I, Johnny Daly, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby recognize March as Women's History Month
and March 8th as International Women's Day.
Linda? Kelly?
Thank you. Thank you. I am Glenda Thornton, and I am privileged to serve as the president of the board of directors of the Oasis Center for Women and Girls. Women's History Month is important because it highlights the often overlooked accomplishments of women. It makes the invisible visible, and it also inspires women and girls to go after their dreams, to achieve them, and to overcome obstacles. We are all privileged to live in a community where the leadership of that community recognizes the importance of women's contributions, especially today. We're living in a time when part of our history, even teaching part of our history, is not only discouraged, but in some cases outlawed. So on behalf of women here and women everywhere, I want to thank our City Commission for recognizing and honoring Women's History Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mayor Daley and our esteemed city commissioners and City Attorney Amy, who used to come to our commission meetings. It's very exciting to be here during the bicentennial year to recognize women and our contributions in our community. As chair of the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, we strive to identify challenges that impact women and girls in our community and create policy-driven solutions that can address those issues at a systemic level. Women's History Month is a chance to spotlight women who pioneered their way across all disciplines for us to have the moment we are in right now. And we want to continue to build upon their previous commitments, sacrifices, and dedication. In our own community and around the world, we function in a society that women have been integral to shaping and creating, and in honor of those who came before us, we continue to do the work to highlight women's accomplishments, uplift and address their struggles, and work to create a future that is greater than the moment we have today. We want to ensure women have access to resources they need to enter and remain in the workforce, including high-quality, affordable childcare, and create a system that leaves no one behind, where we see women in leadership positions, free of gender-based violence, and with equal access to education, healthcare, and ensuring that every woman in our community can achieve economic security and prosperity. We strive for every month to center on women and make history because, in the words of Angela Davis, I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change, I'm changing the things I cannot accept. I will look forward to continue to co-create with my fellow CSWG commissioners and our wonderful elected officials to continue to do just that and make Tallahassee a gold standard of women's excellence. So thank you and happy Women's History Month.
Here. Anyone? Do a group photo? Stay right here? Sounds great.
Hold it together? Yeah.
Come on up. Get on up on the front. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you.
Hey,
see ya.
thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Manager, do we have any announcements coming before the City Commission at this time?
No, sir.
Do we have any appearances by other boards or governmental entities?
No, sir.
We are on the consent agenda. Has anything been pulled off the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We have one speaker on item 8.03.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull 8.03. Is there a motion for 8.01 or 8.02?
So moved.
Been probably moved by Commissioner Porter for the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox. All those in favor of the consent agenda motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We are on item number 8.03. You want to go ahead and present it, Madam Attorney, and then we'll have public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Attorney's Office is requesting, this is item number 8.03, settlement of claim. The City Attorney's Office is requesting approval of a settlement in a personal injury matter involving Jennifer Marks against the City of Tallahassee. The recommended settlement comes after extensive discovery between the plaintiff and the City Attorney's Office and risk management on behalf of the City of Tallahassee. The recommended action is option number 1, to approve the proposed settlement.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, our public speaker, please.
Mayor, the speaker on this item is Bernard Stevens.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Bernard Michael Stevens, Jr., and my address is exempt. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have an issue with this here, right? So this claim happened in 2019. We are in the year 2024. It takes you almost 4 years to complete a claim, and that is bad leadership. And you know what? This ain't the only incident and lawsuits pending against the city. So I'm trying to figure out what is it that risk management is actually doing? Nothing. Can't be nothing. You know, so I'm having a problem understanding why we have all this pending litigation. Why does the city continue to have more and more litigation towards them, and you all are not rectifying them quickly? It's quick for you to do everything else in this city. You pass whatever you want to pass. You do whatever it is that you want to do. Reese Gold does whatever he wants to do, and nobody says nothing about that, right? Right. So $105,000 you're about to award to people. Now, she deserves that because she was struck by the police, right? Now, what about that individual over there in Holden Street that got punched in the face by your police officer? What about him? What about him? What about all the people that got abused by the police department? What about their money? How long is that going to take? People cannot continue to keep waiting on you to do whatever it is that you're doing when you're paid to do the work and read. If you're not going to read, if you're not going to process claims expeditiously, why are we even sitting in the seat? Why are we even elected? What are we doing? And from my understanding, Sister Jackson was the attorney at that point in time. Ms. Tolman just took over that. So if you all are going to pass settlements just about every commission meeting, and that's looking like you passing only one settlement a month, that's the problem, okay? So what you do in order to get that money right, you end up raising taxes on the citizens, and you also try to find money elsewhere to take care of your litigation because your money ain't right. So whoever in control of the book seemed as if Mr. Gold got something to do with that as well, because when you go and look at the documents and board docs, when you look at the financials, right? You go look at all of that, none of that stuff in there is adding up. You won't have your checkbook written the right way because nobody can see the receipts. When you click on this, when they say file attachments, this popping up to a whole nother award. This says $4.50 a gallon. This don't even show exactly what's supposed to be going on. So I'm having a hard time understanding why are we not doing our job? What are we doing wrong? Why are we hurting the people? And why does people have to continue to come in front of you to get you to rectify your issues when you act like you don't even see them yourself? Litigation, huh? We don't have money to be paying people. These are the taxpayer dollars, right? And they want their dollars to go to a good use. And every time they got to pay out a lawsuit, that ends up hurting their pockets even more on their utility bill, on their property taxes. All of that stuff goes up. And every last one of you get up here and approve your budget by increasing it because you have to pay for your litigation. So I tell you one thing, and I'm telling you now, I'm going to expose all your little financial infidelities, and the people are going to know them. I digress my time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
That was the only speaker on this item.
Is there a motion on the table for item 8.03?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? It's been properly moved by the commissioner, by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. All right, we are on, we have nothing under City Commission, nothing under the introduction of ordinance. We are on policy formation and direction, 12.01. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me ask Director Pollard to come forward. I'll introduce this item, and I'd like him to make a few remarks. This item seeks your approval to award the construction contract for runway 927. That's one of our 2 runways at the International Airport. The project will facilitate critical safety improvements to the primary runway to ensure compliance with the latest FAA design standards. This project was made possible by funding from the Federal Aviation Administration through the Community Project Funding Program, and we'd like to extend thanks to Congressman Dunn for sponsoring this. David, if you would just share a few comments about the importance of the runway and the project itself.
Thank you, Reese. I'm very pleased to announce that we're getting ready to open up our north-south runway. This has been a long road for us as we work on that runway. We work to secure funding. You may recall this was a secondary runway, so in accordance with FAA policy, they wouldn't fund our north-south runway. We then pivoted and worked with the state to secure state dollars combined with local dollars to get that job done. So lots of excitement about our north-south runway. Lots of great remarks from both FAA and FDOT on that runway. Once we get that runway open, we would then shift operations to the north-south runway, and from there, we would do some work. If I could run through a few slides.
Yeah, please.
It might illustrate it a little bit better. So basically what the east-west runway, as you know it, the longer runway, once we shift operations, we have some things. FAA design standards are constantly changing and evolving. They learn lessons from various accidents and incidents and things of that nature. They change the design standards. So that's what this is achieving, is meeting the latest FAA design standards. And again, working with Congressman Dunn's office, we're getting this project funded by the federal government, both through the Congressman Dunn's allocation and some bipartisan infrastructure dollars. So we're getting a runway refresh project with very little local dollars involved. It entails grading our runway safety area and runway object-free areas, we call them. I'll give you a visual of that here in a minute. Also, 350 in-pavement lights that we use for the runway centerline lights and the threshold lights, and all these lights. The sealant around the lights is coming. It's time to address the sealant around the lights, and also refresh of the pavement markings. As you can imagine, lots of aircraft touching down on that runway, and so we need to go methodically to each runway light, dig out the sealant, and clean that up, clean it out, and then reseal that runway in pavement light. So very intensive project, along with the movement of the dirt that surrounds some of our safety areas there. This is a quick visual in the red box that shows you the primary area where we'll be moving all that dirt and grading it. And should we have an aircraft that runs off the side of the runway or overshoots the runway, these are safety area improvements and runway object-free area improvements that provide higher levels of safety for our travelers. Again, this project is funded with the $4 million community project funding allocation that we've been awarded, and we certainly would appreciate your support as we continue to set the stage for the future of our airport.
Excellent, thank you. All right, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, colleagues.
Move staff recommendation on option number 1.
Second.
Staff recommendation's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment? I just want to chime in and say, nice work, David. Appreciate you and the team. Also, I want to say appreciations to Congressman Dunn's office for helping us out and bringing home some federal appropriations as well. So, Okay, see no other comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. We're on item number 12.02.
Thank you,
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Angela Baldwin, our Director of Star Metro, will provide a presentation on this item. This involves the acceptance of a $1 million appropriation from the state of Florida. It occurred in the last legislative session, and it's for our Southside Transit Center. So we're getting closer and closer to the construction of that site. We are working with the federal government on the grants that we received there. This would be from the state government. So we wanted to take a moment. We're seeking your approval to accept these funds from the state, but also just talk about the project and where we are. Angela will provide the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and appointed officials. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to stand before you today, but even more so when we discuss meeting your strategic goals and accepting funds towards those goals. The Southside Transit Center, located at the corner of Meridian and Orange Avenue, will serve as a transformative project for the Southside community. Over 1/3 of our total customers live or work on the South Side. In line with our strategic goal to ensure public transit is accessible, efficient, and accessible, this beautiful, high-tech, sustainable, multimodal transit center will offer increased transit services and transportation opportunities to those customers. It will improve mobility and bridge gaps in accessibility by providing more direct transit services, reducing travel and wait times, and integrating multiple transportation modes. The impact the Southside Transit Center will have on the community and Star Metro's ability to offer direct transit services, transportation options to education, healthcare, and employment has attracted state and federal support, including innovative funding sources such as today's item. The state's $1 million allocation will be joined by the $15 million raise, blueprint, and city match funds for the construction of our region's first state-of-the-art transit facility in over 30 years. We'll continue our vigorous public engagement efforts, and we're very excited about the momentum this project will bring. Today, we ask your approval and acceptance to expend the $1 million award from the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm joined here today by Construction Manager John Powell to answer any questions that you may have.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
Stanley Sims is here to speak on the item. I believe he's the only speaker we have for this one.
Name and address for the record, please.
Stanley Sims at 1320 Avondale Way. I go back to the bus system when Mr. Larry Carter was running it. His family had sold it to the City of Tallahassee. Then it was Caltrain. I bring that up because during those days, I was living off Texas Street. That was our massive transportation. That's how we lived, how we got to work. Because I went to FAMU High, we didn't have bus systems. When we were riding high, we rode the bus. Other than that, we caught a ride with a friend. My heart is heavy today, but I'm trying to press forward. But I am blessed that in this momentous month, a Black woman is the director of our transit center. Not only is she Black, but she's humble. No disrespect, Ms. Baldwin. I appreciate the fact that we can always speak to them, whether good or bad. I'm excited about this building Because once we've got something that is not subsidized, because it's going to the south side. Devin, you have put I don't see you calling your name. You have put a lot of effort in hearing the voices of the people of the south side. Now, whether that permeates up to this board or this commission, we know is a horse of a different color. But Ms. Ballman, this is a momentous project.
You have 30
This
seconds.
is a part of your legacy to this community. And I just wanted to thank you and your team for the hard work that they have done.
Our next speaker, please.
No additional speakers.
Colleagues.
Move staff recommendation on option number 1.
Mayor Pro Tem properly moves option number 1, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't tell you how proud I am of this facility, and it is one of many projects that we have seen occur or in the pipeline and funded that are transformative for the south side of our city. I've lived there for 30 years, as you all know, and am proud of where I live and have been able to advocate for many of the projects that we see now, including Columbia Gardens at South City, what we've done with Magnolia Oaks, just north of Columbia Gardens, the new transit center. We just approved the IA board a $30 million renovation and redevelopment of the fairgrounds, something that we have been trying to get done for years now. And many of the infrastructure projects that have been accomplished and completed, including Magnolia Drive from Meridian to Pontiac, Putnam, Polk Drive, Texas, Mr. Sims, where you used to live. All of those have been done over the last several years, and we're just proud of where we're going. We've still got a lot of progress to make, but I know that working together, we will get those things done. And as I tell people all the time, my vision, and I'm sure the commission and staff shares this with me, is that wherever an individual lives in the city of Tallahassee, they feel like they live in the All-America city that we have twice been designated. And I think we're well on our way to achieving that vision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Ms. Baldwin and everybody that's worked on this project so far. It's great to see it coming to fruition. We know as our city grows, transit is a necessary and essential part of our future. And as long as we're pushing to keep that safe, affordable, and efficient, and to see us growing our system when it's much needed, it's just great work all around. Thank you.
Any other comment? Seeing Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Let me just say ditto to Ms. Baldwin and her team. I smile every time I pass the location, just knowing that, visualizing what is gonna be there. And thank you all for your continued work. And I especially appreciate the fact that you all are constantly, you and the other staff members, grants office, always looking for monies from the state or the feds to help leverage this so that we won't have to bring this burden to the locals, so that we're able to get these things that happen in our community. So I really appreciate you all for being on the lookout for available grants. And it's always a pleasure to have an item where you're asking permission to accept free money. I'm always going to support that. So thank you all.
Motion on the table to accept option number 1, made by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We're on item number 12.03. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 12.03 seeks the approval by the City Commission of a resolution number 24-R-03. At the February 21st meeting, City Commission meeting, the Commission directed staff to prepare a resolution opposing legislative efforts to prohibit oversight of law enforcement agencies in relation to the investigation of complaints of misconduct by law enforcement officers by a civilian or citizen review board, such as the Tallahassee Citizen Police Review Board. The resolution is attached to the item for further discussion. I would just like to note that as of this afternoon, that bill remains unpassed. It has been amended. The Senate version is the one that's pending right now. It remains in messages. So it's not clear if it will pass and if it will be changed at all over the next couple of days before its passage, if it does end up passing. So just add that to the discussion.
Great. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor, we have one speaker on this item, Stanley Sims.
All right. Name and address for the record, please.
Point of order, Madam, is the proclamation in support of not banning that you all are submitting?
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, that's what.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank you, Mayor. My name is Stanley Sims, 1320 Avondale Way. In highlight of crime, TikTok, social media, mega extremists, Democrats who act like Republicans. We need every auxiliary board for citizens to express when they feel that their rights have been infringed. Too many times that we have went on television and seen so many cases like George Floyd or similar, or just a guy like me trying to come to a city commission meeting and his rights are violated. And what's so strange this is America. I love Tallahassee. I can't help it. I really wish for my health that I did not love this town so much. But every time I see a kid shot accidentally, mistreated accidentally, and let me say this for the record, all cops are not bad. And I thank God for some of you all. I really do. Even in my wrongness. There were some cops or correctional officers when I was in prison treated me like a decent person. So this is not a broad brush.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
But every opportunity that a citizen can come forth and express that they feel, feelings are not always real, but they are real to the individual. We need to treat them with dignity and respect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please.
No additional speakers on the item.
All right, colleagues.
Move staff recommendation.
Been
Second.
properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously, 5-0. Item number 12.04. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 12.04 is the approval or request for approval of Resolution 24-R-04. Again, at the February 21, 2024 meeting, the City Commission expressed a desire to create a resolution modeled after one recently approved by Leon County, acknowledging and apologizing for the history of slavery and racism in the City of Tallahassee. As part of a growing movement across the country to address racial inequality, cities and counties have issued apologies for historic injustices that occurred within their jurisdictions. While a resolution cannot erase past wrongs or solve multi-generational issues, it can signal a governing body's priorities, including a willingness to continue engaging in efforts to remove barriers to equality and prosperity. Resolution number 24-R-04 is attached for discussion, and the recommended option is to approve the resolution.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, sir, we do. Our first speaker is Bernard Stevens.
How many speakers do we have, Mr. Clerk?
2.
Okay. Your name and address for the record, please.
Yep, my name is Reverend Bernard Michael Stevens, Jr., and my address is exempt. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to call your attention to the Bible. 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 48. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold. I want to use that particular subject to say a thought-provoking text. You know, I got 4 points for your consideration today. Africa and the Holy Land are very close. 2, we are reminded of a ship that brought the first African-American slaves to America in 1619. Well, it's 2024. Yet instead, the City of Tallahassee has been 200 years in 2 days. Wow. Metaphorically, every person is a ship. Number 4, in spite of discrimination, segregation, and racial hatred, we had many ships to sail. Most are sailing as I speak. Praise the Lord. You know, I love the Lord, and he heard my cry. What is really sad is that instead, you apologize for slavery, but we still slaves today. You know why? Because yet instead of us being out there on your field for master, you want to get us because you don't want to educate our mind. And what you do with that is you take it and you twist it and you lock us up. Now, if you're going to keep incarcerating people, you ain't teaching nothing. Now, if you are elected officials, at the end of the day, you're supposed to be trying to figure out a way to decrease crime, not to increase police presence. But yet instead, the City of Tallahassee has one of the most highest incarceration rates in the Leon County area compared to the Sheriff Department. So what is it that we're doing, John Daly? Huh? What is it we doing? Reese Gold hired Lawrence Revel. Why he did that? We don't know. Now do we? But yet instead you had several quality candidates looking for a job. And you know, I'm starting to feel some type of way because we've had women apply for that job and yet instead they go overlooked. You had men running this police department long enough. And it's time for a woman with some compassion, a woman who understands our community, a woman who was born and raised in this city. Now, if you're going to talk about black history, you do something about it. Don't you use our history as something to say that we ain't nothing. We are educated and we're smart. I won't let Curtis Richardson or Diane Williams-Cox speak for me because I'm a man myself and I'm going to stand up like one. But what I'm going to tell you now, we tired of being your slaves mentally. We're tired of being whipped. We're tired of being incarcerated. And we're tired of being abused. We humans, you ain't different from me just because your skin is white. You got everything I got. You got a heart, you got blood, you got veins. Your outer appearance don't change nothing. What's in the inside is what matters. Now, if you're going to talk about my history, you speak up on it. But don't make it seem like you're going to cover it up.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Next speaker, Stanley Sims.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is not Toby. No matter how many times you called me Toby, I will not answer. You may separate me from my brothers and sisters. I may have to watch you rape my mama, but I will not answer to Toby. That was back then. I am not an angry black man. I am not dumb. I'm not a menace to society. I am somebody. At the funeral of the late Coretta Scott King, the late Reverend Ralph Abernathy, I apologize for the mispronunciation, but I'm upset. Curtis, he asked a very profound question after he had heard all of the presidents speak. What he said, Mr. Matlow, he said, in the morning. If you've been to a black church, you know what in the morning means. He said, will words become deeds in the morning? I thank you for this apology. I got all dressed up for it. But will words become deeds? It's rough out there.
30 seconds.
And the playing fields are not close to even. In the morning.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
That's the last speaker on this item.
All right, colleagues.
Move acceptance.
Been properly moved for acceptance. Option number 1, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Porter. Any further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. Do we have any other business come before the City Commission under policy formation and direction?
No, sir.
All right, we're on unagended speakers. Mr. Clerk, how many unagended speakers do we have?
We have, Mayor, 6 speakers in chambers and should have 1 connected virtually.
Great.
Our first speaker is Erwin Jackson. He'll be followed by Harry Brown.
Name and address for the record, please.
Erwin Jackson, 1341 Jackson Bluff. First, I'd like to thank the mayor, your wife, volunteers, city employees, and those who financially supported our 200-year celebration. Job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
However, it is very disappointing that after 200 years, we still have city officials who continue to try to block the public's right to speak before this commission. Not long ago, ex-mayor John Marks, the guy you wanted to immortalize by naming a building after him, implemented the kill switch and used it on me in City Hall. When I would ask him about money he received from city contractors, deferred compensation, or Honeywell, he would press the kill switch and silence my mic. It took legal action to force the removal of Mark's tool of silence. I did not attend the last City Commission meeting because I was out of town on business. I called Jim Cook, who's the clerk here, treasurer, at 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, requested the phone number so I could call in to speak at the City Commission meeting, and about 8 hours later, I was told I had missed my opportunity to speak. I'm 8 hours early and I missed my opportunity to speak. He said, yes, the deadline was yesterday at 9 p.m. When I asked why the deadline was about 20 hours before the actual meeting, he responded that that's how we've always done it. When I asked, where is this rule written? He said he didn't know exactly, but it's on the city website. When I asked, why isn't this policy printed on the agenda form like this that's passed out to everyone here in the city commission, I was told, he said, that he has 5 bosses, and if I wanted to speak, I needed to get their approval. I called the mayor, left a message, who must have called Cook's office, who then had his assistant call me with a phone number so I could speak at the next city commission meeting. Lord knows the amount of time that took and money we wasted doing that. But I patiently listened for 3 hours during the commission meeting until we finally got to unagenda speakers. I listened to all the unagenda speakers, but I was shocked when I heard that Cook stated that there was no additional speakers. Cook was successful, and silenced me on that day. At least ex-Mayor Marks had was honest enough to take credit for implementing the kill switch. I called the clerk's office and expressed my outrage. I heard no response, no apology from Cook on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or the weekend.
Thank you, Dr.
What I'm asking for, in summary,
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
is we want these barriers to free speech removed.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
And I want a letter of apology.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
That this will not occur again.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Harry Brown, and then Dot Inman Johnson.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Harry Brown. I reside at 5431 Trump Road. I am here to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth. I come today to share with you the racism and bigotry that I experienced during my more than 19 years as a city employee. I was hired in an urged position. That means that it was urgent to hire black in the position because only white men had been hired in that position. I was hired in the position, but they did not want me here. They were simply following the ruling of the federal government to hire more blacks by the city government. They made my job as difficult as possible. I was treated like no employee had been treated before. I was hired and was not given an ample number of employees or the resources to get the job done. I was given the responsibility to prepare a newly constructed city hall for occupancy for hundreds of employees. I was given 2 part-time employees who could only work until 10 p.m. I worked alone until 3 and 4 a.m. and returned to work by 8 a.m. A white supervisor, Mr. Darnell Thompson, Darrell Thompson, who sometimes worked until 11 and 12 midnight, asked me if I was being paid for the overtime that I was putting in. I told him that my supervisor, Director Charles Berrier, told me that I did not qualify for overtime. Darrell Thompson said, Harry, that cannot be true because I have employees of a higher pay grade than you, and they get paid overtime. He told me to report this to Dan Clayman so I could be paid for my overtime. I am sure leadership did not expect me to stay after receiving this kind of treatment, but I had staying power. I had stick-to-itiveness. It just so happened I was annotating my calendar of my overtime hours so I could share my wife the number of hours I was putting in so she wouldn't think I was just hanging out.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
When I reported this to the city manager, a check was cut for me in less than an hour for $3,500. And And I missed a lot of my overtime because I didn't realize I was going to be in Texas. The two main leaders that we have now, Daley and Gold, are followers. I wish you guys
Thank
would
you, Mr. Brown.
you
Thank
need
you
to
so
try
much.
being leaders instead of followers.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Please do that. Please do that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, please.
Scott Inman Johnson, to be followed by Candace Johnson.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Dot Inman Johnson, 2121 Trescott Drive. Good evening, Commissioners. I am here to speak on behalf of the Tallahassee firefighters. I think it is appalling that we are 6 months into the year and our firefighters do not have a contract, have lost half of their pay increases for this year that will not be, according to what's happening, retroactive. Most citizens see the fire department and the police department as high-risk public safety organizations, and both should be treated with value and respect. And the way the fire department is being treated is disgusting. Most citizens do not realize that the beginning firefighter makes almost $14,000 less than a beginning police officer. Most people don't know that the city of Tallahassee, the most urban area in this region, pays its firefighters less than Gadsden County, Wakulla County, Jefferson County, and all of these small counties that surround Tallahassee. Most citizens do not know that our fire rating, because of the work of these diligent public servants, reduces their insurance rate. And these people rush into burning houses to save human life and property, go to burning vehicles that could explode any minute, risking their lives, and this is how they are treated. I will be coming back over and over again and reminding you that it only takes John or Curtis or Diane, one of you, changing your vote and doing the right thing. And I ask you to do it.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Next is Candace Johnson, and then Bernard Stevens.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Candace Johnson, and my address is 1540 South Adams Street. That is my new business address, which is on the south side of town. I recently came into the facility unaware that I would have issue with access for crossing the street for my clients. And so I have a wide range of clientele ranging from little bitty babies to seniors, and there's no crosswalk or any flashing lights to kind of slow the traffic down. So I'm just kind of looking for some direction on if getting like just something to just slow the traffic down so that they can cross the street, feeling confident and, safely. And so I don't have to, kind of like worry. Like usually if my older clients come, I'll cross the street with them just to make sure they can get across, or even if we can have like a handicap parking space or something, just to make it easier for my clients so that I'm not losing that clientele that I have. So I'm just looking for direction on how I can get something, anything. I talked to some of the other business owners and they said they think it would be beneficial It can be something as simple as a flashing light, a button to push, you know, that indicates that people are crossing, or just to kind of let people know that they're going fast, you know, the speedometers to kind of indicate like you need to slow down just a little bit because people are crossing the street. That's the only parking lot that we have. So that's all I have.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you for coming and sharing that. I've got a couple folks in the back that if you'll connect with them, John Reddick and Karen Jumonville.
Yes.
And they'll explore that issue. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Bernard Stevens. Bernard Stevens is next speaker, and then we'll hear from Samuel Doller.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Reverend Bernard Michael Stevens, Jr., and my address is exempt. The Bible says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises shall continually be in my mouth. That don't mean I'm finna wait till Sunday to go to no church and sit in there and shout, and then you think I'm gonna come in here and abide by your rules when I put you in that seat. Not happening. None of y'all. Not happening. No more. When a person elects you, you work for the people. You don't work for the people that gave you money in your campaign. And since you're running for office in the same seat I got, I guarantee you, if you suspend your financial contributions compared to mine, I guarantee you I'll smoke you like nothing else. I will get all the votes. But since you need that money to get all the TV fame and all that other kind of stuff, I'm going to let you have that. Because that's all you need. You want people in your corner to make it seem like you're doing such a great job. And you're not. However, let me just go ahead and get to the point, right? I want to call your attention to the book of Mark, chapter 10, starting at verse 44. And whosoever of you will be chiefest shall be servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life as a ransom for many. I want to use that scripture for a subject, a ransom for many. When you think about a ransom, you know you held hostage. You held hostage for the defeat of everybody else. There's somebody in that Bible named Jesus that we get up early in the morning and we talk about, that y'all go to Bethel AME Church, Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. All of y'all sing the same hymns that I sing. So I'm trying to understand why I can't get the same respect that you get. You know why? Because at the end of the day, somebody paid you. Somebody paid her. But there's a man named Jesus who died for me. Now, he put himself up there for all of us. So if you put ourselves up there, he did that knowing he was going to die. I told y'all a couple of minutes ago, I don't care what you do with me. I done already been to the jail and the prison system. I know more than you know, and you ain't been there. But you think because you got a psychology degree, you know it all, right? But let me tell you something. That man died for Mr. Cook, Ms. Tolman, Mr. Gold, Mr. Daly, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Cox, Mr. Matlow, Mr. Porter. I'm sorry, Mr. Richardson. He died for every last one of us and all of these people in this room today. But yet instead, nobody seems to understand how he had to be whipped, how he had to be pierced in his side, how he had to have his hands out there wide open. But nobody understands that because you ain't been through nothing to understand it. But I done been there. I done know what it feels like to be whipped. I know what it feels like to be talked about. I know what it feels like. Yep. Y'all don't know because you cover up sin. And the more you cover it up, the more you gonna cause hell in this city. You can't holler about peace when you ain't doing nothing. Now, I'm tired. I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. And I'm gonna put myself up and I'm gonna let everybody know I'm gonna serve because I'm a servant. And a servant is humble. And humble will get you far.
Our next speaker, please.
Samuel Doller, and then Delilah Pierre.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sam. I'd like to start off by thanking you guys for passing the resolution around the Civilian Police Review Board. They are only a block away at the Florida House and Senate. They know you guys have a Civilian Police Review Board. This was a direct attack on your autonomy, and this was a direct attack on your self-governance. And I am glad that you guys have taken a very, very good symbolic step towards community control, towards holding the police accountable, but it needs to be followed by a lot more steps. There is a huge problem inside of this city of symbolic justice, not shared by actual justice. And it's really frustrating to see these review boards, these different subsections you guys establish do nothing at all. I mean, like the LGBT advisory board can't meet quorum. The Civilian Police Review Board can't meet quorum, and yet you guys are willing to just like come up here and talk about how much great work they've done when they can't even meet. Thank goodness that the Civilian Police Review Board has recently been able to meet quorum. No thanks to Diane Williams-Cox after she lied about a member to remove them. But the symbolic justice is simply not enough. We're in a very, very dark period right now where there are a lot of attacks going on against justice. There's a lot of hateful legislation going through around LGBT issues, and it's just going to hurt people, not just across the country, but in this community specifically. And so I ask that when you guys make these resolutions to condemn the past history of Tallahassee, please remember to secure the future of Tallahassee, because that's important too. I mean, I frankly find some of the symbolism not shared by actual action quite disgusting. I mean, we had 3 commissioners at the firefighter and teacher labor event last night. That should be enough to give the firefighters what they want.
You're at 30 seconds.
That should be enough to give the teachers what they want. 3 of you are willing to symbolically stand with those people, but only 2 of you are willing to go any further than that. And that is a constant trend with this city of we're going to hug the firefighters, but when inflation continues to rise, when their wages continue to decline in comparison to inflation, nothing gets done. So I ask the city to do better and think about more than just symbolic advocacy.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Delilah Pierre, and then Stanley Sims.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Delilah. My address is exempt. I think it's amazing that y'all passed the resolution condemning the attacks on citizens police review boards. I also think that our city commissioners, especially City Commissioner John Daly, Curtis Richardson, but Diane Williams-Cox, need to take some responsibility for this legislation existing in the first place. I think the reason why legislation like this exists and people think that they can get away with attacking the slimmest, barest democracy in our city, attacking citizens police review boards, is when cities themselves advance that attack and attack citizens police review boards. And I think we've seen this in the city of Tallahassee, where the Florida Police Benevolent Association writes a letter attacking a member of Citizens Police Review Board, and then the right wing of the city commission conspires to find any reason to get that member removed. That being said, this resolution is great. Condemning the attacks on Citizens Police Review Boards is amazing. What would be more amazing is maybe taking out the rules that were created in the city charter that limit the power of the Citizens Police Review Board. Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox has mentioned multiple times that the Citizens Police Review Board extended outside of their limits, but as someone who attended nearly every Citizens Police Review Board meeting, I can tell you that you city commissioners were not listening to the people who were sitting on that board. They wanted more access. They wanted more connections with their community. They wanted really, really basic things: to have a social media account so they can spread the word about the meetings so more people can attend and come; to be able to organize in their community, to table so more people know about the Citizens Police Review Board, which you didn't even talk about, to my knowledge, on the City of Tallahassee social media. They wanted these basic improvements that would give more access and accessibility and power to community members, and they weren't given them. And I think that's totally unacceptable. And I think the conduct that's been surrounding the attacks on the Citizens Police Review Board, listening more to Barney Bishop and the Florida Police Benevolence Association, but not being willing to listen to the City of Tallahassee firefighters, attacking members of your own public board, doing things that I think are just incredibly petty, like not giving Jack Porter the pro tem mayor position. It's unacceptable. I think it's clearly unacceptable to walk out on a blueprint meeting and risk our city $17 million or more of funding. I think that's totally unacceptable. And I think that kind of conduct is exactly why we need greater power to civilian oversight in the city of Tallahassee.
30 seconds.
We need to demand community oversight now. We need to revoke the policies that were established in the city charter. And honestly, the city needs to do a much, much better job of giving actual people in our communities say access power, because I think everyone is tired of seeing multiple news organizations write about the embarrassing conduct of City Commissioners John Daly, Curtis Richardson, and Diane Williams-Cox, who continue to attack not just for fellow politicians, but also other members of the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, please.
Next is Stanley Sims. Mayor, that's the last speaker I have here in chambers at this point, but we do have one virtual.
Great. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Stanley Sims, father of a new firefighter. Mayor, I read the correspondence with you and County Commissioner Bill Proctor. I don't think that's economical feasible. I don't believe that's a good solution, but now if you wanted to apply that solution to law enforcement, where we consolidate law enforcement, but, oh, we just got a 8.5% public safety tax increase. That does not include firemen. So all of you are listening, not you guys, because you may think they just come to you because of your position. How many of y'all ever been in an accident, and who gets there first? Not the police, fire department. My son is on duty right now. Mr. Cook, it's different. He don't like when I say this, but when my baby put on that uniform, he is so proud because of everything he went through to get to that uniform. And Miss Barbara, you know my baby fought to wear that uniform. And Miss Mandrea, my grandma would say you can't hit him in the butt with a red apple because he's proud. And when he comes home, some things he can talk to me about, some things he can't. I don't press him. Try not to get in the way because he's growing to be a man. But in my eyes, he's my baby. My baby worked that accident of suicide on came home that day different. Hey, man, I don't want to talk about it. I had to respect that.
You're at 30 seconds remaining.
My son is over in Gadsden County with less qualifications, working hard. He's over there because the qualifications of a fireman is higher here, but the pay is lower. Can somebody explain that to me as if I'm a fourth grader? You got 30 seconds.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Franklin Perez.
Hello, this is Franklin Perez. Can you hear me?
I can hear.
Hello?
Your name and address, please, for the record.
Okay, my name is Franklin Perez. I live in 4250 Alafaya Trail, Oviedo, Florida. Please say no to and oppose Florida State House Bill 601 and Florida State Senate Bill 576 and stand with the right of local communities to civilian oversight of the police and to elect civilian review boards that oversee the conduct of the police. These bills would ban civilian police oversight committees statewide and leave police unaccountable to the people. Police abuse, harassment, and unjustified killings, especially against Black and brown individuals, continue to be a serious problem in the United States, as per reports from reputable human rights organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. The problem is that current civilian review boards, when they do exist, have no real power. All they can do is make recommendations. Thus, there is largely no accountability by police officers because police departments police themselves. What we need is a Police Accountability Act that would require the formation of civilian review boards with real teeth to oversee state, county, and city police departments with full powers to independently investigate, discipline, and terminate problem police officers. And it's likely that these civilian review boards should probably be elected by the people, and nobody in these civilian review boards should be anyone associated with law enforcement. We also need to do away with qualified immunity because it gives police officers a virtual license to kill. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Next speaker, please.
Mayor, our next speaker is Ahmad Daraldik.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Can I get one moment to collect my breath, please? Because I had to run here from work because you guys were going to end the meeting.
Please begin.
So I want to start off with the fact that I think every single one of you sitting on this dais should be incredibly ashamed of yourselves, because as a Palestinian, I haven't been able to come see you this whole year. This is the first time I made it into chambers before you decided to shut a meeting off, which is completely inappropriate when you're here to meet and understand what your citizens need. And every single one of you sits here like it's a joke. There's over 30,000 people massacred, murdered by our tax dollars. This country is sending billions and millions of dollars. We're sending our own soldiers to kill people that I know. Is that acceptable? And yet, till today, not one of you has decided to put forward a resolution to stand with Palestinians and demand for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and an end to a genocide that's been happening for over a century. This is an escalated genocide since October 7th, not the beginning of one. And that needs to be made very clear. And I think it's crazy that, I didn't realize how connected I am to each one of you. I know a lot of your families. And someone really crazy, I didn't know I knew your family, Commissioner Richardson. Your wife inspired me. She's a woman from Ethiopia that came to this country and she pursued her degrees. She's a lawyer and now she served as a county judge. She used to come to teen court when I was still in high school and remind me every day, no matter that I'm from Palestine, that I can do anything that I wanted. I could be anything that I wanted. And to realize that you're her husband, I'm disgusted because she can do so much better. She can. She's an amazing woman. I went to high school with your daughter as well. We did the longest table event, the first one in this city. And we described and discussed horrible and real issues. And your daughter understood my perspective. She understood I'm a Palestinian and what I stand for. And yet you're still here, denying our existence, denying our safety, our security, and our humanity. Does that not shake you to your core? Does that not make you wonder what the heck you're doing behind that dais? Because I'm in shock. I literally had to leave work. I'm still in the middle of my workday. I had to leave work to get here just so I can say a few words to get your ears, because all year you would not listen to Palestinians. All year, it's March, we're in the 3rd month, and the genocide is still happening. Ramadan is a week away. We know that Ramadan is one of the bloodiest months because the Zionist illegal entity is going to continue to cause that bloodshed. I don't need your reminder. I know how much time I have. And the fact that you're still just nodding and thinking I'm not serious, I am dead serious. That I expect action and I expect a resolution and I expect you to stand up and do something instead of sitting here and making me feel as if my life does not matter. This country and this world and our city deserve better than every single one of you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please.
Mayor, I don't have any other speakers.
Okay, let's go to sharing of ideas. Commissioner Porter, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to ask Mr. Cook if you could give us an update on the ethics board. I know that the city has a vacancy, and the last I checked, we had applicants. I just wanted to get an update from you about that and what we need to do to move forward.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Porter, we do have a couple of applications that we have received for the city's appointment to the Independent Ethics Board. That application portal has been open and continues to be open. That is a board that is not a board of the city commission wherein you appoint all of the members, but there is one seat that's appointed by the city commission. That one is open. The direction on how to move forward will come from you as a commission. It's your decision as to who you want to bring forward. If we need an agenda item, if y'all want to have conversation, if you want me to let you know when we have further applications, any of those things we can work with.
Cool. Commissioner Porter.
Thank you. And have we advertised that opening like we advertise any other opening?
Yes. I think what happens sometimes, though, is that we have a large number of boards, and we're always accepting applications because most of them over time, there's a rotation, and so there's an awareness of those. It may be that the ethics board, though it's been treated the same as others, that's typically not a rotating thing. Once a person's in there, you don't appoint anybody else for some time. So it may not have had attention, but this conversation probably adds some.
Okay, thank you. I haven't seen who's applied yet, but I think that it seems like we should have an item come back at some point, you know, with the applicants. I don't have a strong opinion on when, if we want to give people more time or notice, but I just wanted to make sure that we didn't, you know, forget about that appointment, because I know it's been a while that there's been that vacancy. So I don't know how everyone else feels, if we feel ready to review those applications and make an appointment. But I just didn't want, you know, to let that go too much longer. I just have two more. Mr. City Manager, can we just get an update? I'm just on the parking minimum item. I just know how I've been talking to folks about it, and I want to see that come back. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be coming anytime soon. Do we have a schedule for that yet?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager.
Commissioner, I'm not sure if it will be the next meeting. I can tell you staff's working on it. Some of that work involves checking with other communities. Generally speaking, for everyone's benefit, the parking minimums would involve the minimum number of parking spaces required for development. That could be residential, multifamily, commercial. And so that oftentimes is an impediment to development if it's overly constraining. We've been very flexible on a case-by-case basis with developments in the past. We know there are other comparable communities, in particular like Gainesville for our student housing, but we want to make sure we have our hands around it. They're working to gather that information. It could be as early as the next meeting, but I wouldn't expect it to be beyond, I think the meeting after that's April 10th. So that's kind of the general timeline we're on.
Thank you. And then I just have one last question, and I want to be very clear that I'm not trying to relitigate the conversation we had at Blueprint about the structure of Blueprint. But I did want to ask, because this was raised, you know, that the county had given direction to their administrator to invite us to a workshop. And I just don't want there to be, it seemed like there was a breakdown of communication, and I wanted, what does that process look like? You know, did we hear from the county? Were we aware of that? Because that meeting was the first time I was hearing about that.
Mr. Manager, you want to comment?
Just generally on the process, so the county administrator from time to time at the direction of his board, if they take action at a board meeting, he may contact me and say they want to meet or, you know, communicate on their behalf. As it relates to meetings, I would work directly with the mayor, of course, as the chairman of this body, to evaluate the desire to do that. You know, on the flip side, if this body, so if you guys tonight decided that you wanted to have a meeting with the county, you've done that before, you would vote, give me direction, and I would reach out to the county administrator. So that'd be the normal flow. It wouldn't be an agenda item back to this body necessarily, and that unless that was something that that you guys voted to initiate.
And let me jump in. Didn't we have an agenda? Am I confusing this with the affordable housing request?
I think it may be the affordable housing.
Okay, I'm confusing it with the affordable housing request. That we had that agenda item.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, sir.
I apologize. Commissioner Porter, you have the floor.
Thank you, and that does help. And I guess so to be clear, that's something that is then communicated to you, Mr. Mayor, and the decision whether we want to have a joint workshop of any kind is made by you as chair? I just want to make sure I understand.
It's not a unilateral decision by
Okay.
me. No, not at all. The ball got dropped somewhere along the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say, this isn't the first time I've heard of something like this happening where we were invited, and so I would just definitely appreciate the being notified, whether it doesn't need to be an agenda item, but being notified of those opportunities. I don't like being caught off guard at a meeting like that. Thank you.
Commissioner Mello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I agree with that sentiment. Certainly, if the county requests that we host a joint workshop, we'd expect the city manager to notify all of us that that request was made. On the vacancies on the ethics board, I think we need more applicants. I think we need to advertise that more.
Yes.
But I would like to see us get that process going, get a date certain that it's going to come back to the agenda if we like the applicants or we want to seek more at that point. But the vacancy has been outstanding. I know that board's a little different than other boards. We operate and how they come back, but do want to make sure we don't let that vacancy linger. 3 other items. I was, disappointed or offended to see political endorsements made at a city-sponsored event, the mayor's bicentennial ball. I find that to be inappropriate, and I trust in the future we'll make sure we're not commingling events that bear the city's logo and the city's funding with direct political endorsements. Secondly, which is the topic of the day, I guess, is the ongoing fire negotiations. And we had a big news cycle yesterday. I think Commissioner Proctor offered himself up to be a mediator. His argument was as a 20-year veteran of elected officials and ongoing gridlock, he had the experience and expertise to try to find common ground, to try to craft a solution which has been an ongoing raucous process. I saw, Mayor Daley, your recommendation that we stop serving the county altogether. I don't think we need to go there. I think we're talking about funding our firefighters. We're not looking for wholesale change. I don't think the city should approach the county and try to stop serving the county. I think, one, there's shared revenues that we get from their fees that they pay into, and we also have mutually beneficial agreements with EMS and transport and response, and that's just the whole mess that doesn't seem like it's part of the conversation. But I do want to, Mr. Manager, where we are now, because in the media yesterday, there was in a quote that there was an 8.6% pay increase for firefighters. And those numbers aren't accurate by what's been put on the table. When we look at across the boards, we did 5% across the board for every city employee. Whether you just started yesterday or you were the city manager, you got 5%. For a lot of high-level executives at the city, that was $10,000 plus extra compensation for the year. I think the breakdown with the fire agreement is, when we look at captains and battalion chiefs, it's 0%. When we look at lieutenants, it's 0%. When we look at engineers, it's 1.5%. And when we look at firefighters, it's 4%. Every single rank is below what we did for our general workforce. And we talk about pension reduction, but pension reduction may be beneficial in the moment, but that's not increased pay. As long as the pension system is stable and we're funding it appropriately, that's not really the total pay. We talk about bonuses and supplements. That's a one-time offer. That's not compounded into your annual salary. It's not included at the end of your service when you retire. Because I think when we're telling the general public that there's an 8.6 they perceive that to be across the board. And I believe if that's what was on the table, it would be signed tomorrow. So I don't want to break down from what we're telling the public we're doing in a public show when the breakdown seems to be at the negotiating table. So I'm at a loss. I'm willing to try anything, no matter how unorthodox it is, to get us there. And if it's bringing our negotiators and their negotiators and having Commissioner Proctor at the table as well to try to find that common ground, I'm willing to do it, because I don't want to see it. We're going into a 3-year contract negotiation next. This one's going to drag on, and it's complete chaos. So I make a motion that we request Commissioner Proctor join us at the bargaining table and try to make a deal with our firefighters.
Well, the motion's not recognized until at least giving the city manager an opportunity to speak, the statutory requirement, and the attorney to also comment as well. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask Mike Mattamore to come forward. Mike is outside counsel. He's worked for the city since 1995. He's represented the city, represents cities. There's Mike on this side. He represents cities throughout the state. He is the foremost expert in public sector negotiation. I think it's important to understand the process.
Right.
Before, Mike, if you'll allow me a second, Commissioner Matlow, you indicated that it wasn't true. The quote said there was an 8.6% compensation increase offer on the table for firefighters. That's a fact. To say anything else would not be correct. It's mathematically correct. The words are correct. And to skew it otherwise is inappropriate. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, and I think Mike can, in his comments, about the firefighters. There are numerous ranks in the fire department. The firefighters are the most number of employees. They're our frontline staff. They're exactly as we expect them to sound. They're the ones that ride on the engines to fight the fires. That rank, as you matriculate through the department, you become what's called an engineer or a driver. Different departments use different terms. And the proposed raise for those individuals is 5.6%. All of which is based on all of the discussion of the bargaining sessions, where we are trying our very best to focus all of the compensation that we can toward our firefighters. Again, they're the most numerous in number in the department. They're the most critical, if you will, because they're on the front line. That's where the salaries are. When we do a salary comparison with other like cities, with Pensacola and Gainesville and Jacksonville, Panama City, places you would expect us to be comparable to, what we find is the higher we go in rank, the more competitive, if not over market, we pay. It's directly inverted. Our firefighters need the raise the most. I feel relatively confident that if the deal that's on the table, that's been posted at the fire departments, was voted on by the members, they would pass it.
Officially.
It has to be passed to the, we has to be passed to the members to vote on. It's probably the appropriate segue to Mr. Mattamore to talk about the process, because we do have to respect the process. It's a statutorily defined process, and that's where we find ourselves. Mike, if you wouldn't mind describing generally how it works, and then probably where we are today in our process.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. In state law, there is a process that's defined that is a path for us to take now to quickly resolve the issues that are in negotiations. It's called the impasse resolution process. It's in the Public Employees Relations Act. We're well along in that process. The State of Florida Public Employees Relations Commission has appointed an expert, a labor lawyer who understands negotiations, who understands public financing, who understands what a contract should say. That special magistrate has now set a hearing for us, for the city and for the firefighters, to present their positions to him. That's going to come up in only 3 weeks. So only 3 weeks from now, that hearing is happening. Prior to that hearing, only 2 weeks from now, the parties have to submit all the data that they would like for this magistrate to consider. And the law lays out several factors that this magistrate must consider, and then that magistrate makes a recommended order to resolve all the issues that are in dispute, then that recommendation, if it's not accepted by everyone, and it can be accepted by everyone, we may look at this person's recommendation and everyone say, that's great, that works, and we have a contract. But if someone is not pleased with that, they can reject that recommendation, and then that comes to you. And you make the decision as to how to resolve this dispute. With the recommendation before you from the special magistrate and all the logic and reasoning and data that that person has accumulated, and also a recommendation by the city manager as to how to resolve this. This is what the statute lays out. It's a legal process that we're bound by. We can't play with that. The Public Employees Relations Commission in the state of Florida said, you cannot, as a public employer in Florida, recreate that process, change that process, modify that process. You have to follow the strict letter of the process in the statute, because that is laid out for the benefit, not for the employer organization necessarily, or for the public employer, but it's laid out for the people, for the citizens, for transparency, for the expertise of that person who's going to listen to us. So that's the process we're in. It's coming to a head very quickly. This is not going to be a protracted situation. And all the issues that are up will all be addressed and taken care of. And we feel confident with the data that we have a fair and right proposal on the table. I know the firefighters disagree. I know that they would like to see something else, and I respect that. And this process will bear that out. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Mr. Mattermore, did we declare impasse?
No, we did not. The firefighters.
Who declared impasse?
The firefighters declared the impasse.
Okay. Madam Attorney, do you want to put any more comment on the record on this? Are you good?
I'm good, thank you. I would just defer to Mr. Mattermore's expertise.
Yeah. Mr. Manager, anything else?
No, sir.
On this? Okay. And let me just state for the record, Commissioner Matlow, in Commissioner Proctor's letter to me, he addressed his personal view of services in the unincorporated. And when I responded to him, and I believe rightly so, I, being a former county commissioner for 12 years and having participated in this conversation, obviously Commissioner Proctor and the county commission have full right. Now, me personally, I think we give great fire service. I really do. But if he has questions and concerns and wants to reevaluate the contract with the city, then obviously their board has full right to take that action, vote upon it, and if they want to sit down and talk, we can concentrate fire services inside the city limits. We would not be laying a single person off. We would not need to shut down any of our fire stations, and the ones that are in the unincorporated, if the county wanted to buy them from us and hire their own personnel, they're more than welcome to. But I believe in the fire department. I believe we're going to find resolution to this, and I'm willing to let the process work itself out. But let me be very clear. In no stretch of the imagination, I'm not going to let you twist my words in writing, and they're plain and simple in writing. Nobody was suggesting shutting down any fire services. I was simply reminding Commissioner Proctor that if they formally want to reevaluate the fire services contract between the city and the services provided countywide, then of course we can. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and respectfully, I disagree. Your letter didn't say Commissioner Proctor had the ability to it. In fact, it said, I recommend you bring it to the county commissioner to withdraw. So that was the nature of my response. It wasn't, certainly, the county commission isn't this board. They have the authority to make decisions in their own right. But when we're making recommendations, we're not county commissioners. So my reading of your words is the simple fact if that recommendation were to come to fruition, as you said, we may need to sell fire stations. That means they're no longer operated by the city of Tallahassee. That means they're being shut down. I think if we stop serving the county, we don't need as many firefighters on the city payroll as we do today. So that's just a logical conclusion. When we go down this tangent, that we really shouldn't be talking about at all, because what we're really focused on is fire services pay. Thank you for coming, Mr. Matamore, and I think it's helpful as we distinguish what these roles are, what the city's role is, what the union's role is, and what your role is at the negotiating table. We heard earlier that if only the union would take this to their members, it would approve. Is that our role as the city to dictate to the union or the union president what to take to their membership? Mr. Matamore?
Did you understand the question there, Mr. Matamore?
Sure. I think it's, we don't dictate to them, but we can ask them, and they actually have a responsibility at certain times during this process to do that. Yeah.
Sure, okay. And over the course of negotiations, there's been multiple dozen meetings with the negotiating team. I don't believe any senior staff at the city actually attended those. I did attend one of those meetings. We've only had 2 executive sessions on our end, where on the city side it was brought to us. So I've been severely disappointed that we've got back this far just on personal knowledge that I have. But all that to say, we're the city. We're not the union. We don't dictate what they have. Our job is to put the best offer on the table that we think fulfills our duty to our constituents, to our citizens, to our taxpayers. And then the union will do what they may. And as you say, maybe that goes to impasse, maybe it's not. But what I have a problem with is when we say that there's an 8.6% increase, it's not true. And increase is a word that means more. A pension reduction is not an increase. So we, again, Mr. Manager, respectfully disagree with what the facts are and what's being offered. And when we compare it to other benefits general employees get, not just the across the board, those numbers change as well. So when we're acting as if, an overwhelming amount of the fire department would approve this if they would just vote on it, when I've heard the fire department loud and clear, not just from the union, but in the public and public comment from membership. And I look at the comparables in other areas. I look at what we've done for our police officers, which I think they deserved it. Nobody should be serving in these critical roles and making less than $60,000 a year. I mean, I think that's absurd. But I also want to take, Mr. Manager, what you said earlier is we look at the pressure of different positions, and there's not as much pressure on upper level positions. And my question is, for assistant city managers making $220,000, was there pressure to give them 5% raises across the board? I don't think so. I don't think that there's a comparable job at that level that would pay comparably, much less to dictate a raise that is 2 to 3 times more than we're offering our firefighters. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
One more.
On point, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's really important because I fear that we're venturing down a path of confusion.
Right.
The offer on the table is an 8.6% increase in compensation. That's what it is.
For every member of the bargaining unit?
For the firefighters, which I've described earlier. To dispute the increase is not correct.
Right.
It is structured in a way that involves pension, that involves salary, that involves a one-time bonus, but the calculation is simply a basic function of math. It's what do they earn today and what percentage increase would they earn in the future. That's what this represents. There is no dispute. The firefighters, the best I can tell, have not disputed it, but to attempt to confuse it, I think is unfair. Their earnings would increase by 8.6% year over year. That's simple. They have not taken it for a vote, but it's true. So to suggest otherwise is unfair. I think you have to maintain apples to apples. That doesn't mean they like it. I think the firefighters would, frankly. I think the engineers would like it, frankly. I think they need the opportunity to vote on it, and that's my opinion. But it is an 8.6% increase in compensation.
Okay, we got,
I have one more.
we're going to keep moving on.
I have one more item.
Oh, you have another item?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure, another item.
On the record, I object to that, but we don't need to prolong the conversation.
Another item. Let's keep
I wanted to talk about, I think, a need in our city, or at least discuss the need in our city for childcare for City of Tallahassee employees. It came to my attention, at least one employee that I know of no longer works for the City of Tallahassee, and childcare was a sticking point, particularly if you have multiple members of the same family working for the City of Tallahassee, and the City of Tallahassee, where we're prone to hurricanes. A lot of us are essential workers. If a hurricane comes, you have to show up for work. As a parent, I know it's already burdensome to find a babysitter. Finding a babysitter during a natural disaster, I think, is nearly impossible. So I just wanted to bring this up and start the conversation. And my recommendation would be if we could maybe poll or just do a survey of the workforce, if that is a benefit that is desired at a larger scale. And I would make that a motion to just poll the workforce of the City of Tallahassee to see if a child care option within our government would be desired.
There's a motion on the table made by Commissioner Matlow regarding to child care opportunities available only for the City of Tallahassee employees. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Porter. Commissioner Matlow, I like where you're going with this, but I'm going to offer a substitute motion, and I appreciate you opening up the door. It's not just the City of Tallahassee employees, but I think that we should sincerely have a conversation about 24/7, 365. And in fact, I've been having this conversation with the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, having this conversation with Kids Incorporated, having this conversation on the Children's Services Council, not just for City of Tallahassee employees, but a means-tested program that can fit the needs of families, probably even neighborhood-based as well, so that we can truly help people with child care needs in this community. So I appreciate what you are saying. I would like to make a substitute motion that we actually bring back an agenda item addressing the policy issue of a 365, 24/7 facility in Tallahassee to at least begin this conversation. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Excellent. But we're on the same plane. Yeah, Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to make that a friendly amendment even to the main motion. I would like I support that, right? But I do want to look at the city component as well, particularly if a center like that cannot operate during a natural disaster, and maybe that's looking at during natural disasters, do we have a child care component for our staff in extenuating circumstances? But I do think that is a piece we are missing at the city. Would that be agreeable to look at that together?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay. Sounds good.
All those in favor? Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Matlow. I think that it is something that I absolutely would support. But I do caution, and I would have concerns with, especially for disasters, having facilities where we become liable for people's children during a disaster. And if something should happen, we may find ourselves in a very precarious place. I will also mention that, as many of you probably know, my husband is a retiree from Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, and at one time, TMH had round-the-clock daycare, and we actually had the opportunity to use it, even though we didn't work around. My husband didn't work through the night. We did use that daycare, and it was a very long waiting list to get there. So there has been some experience in our community in the past of running a daycare around the clock. And I suggest that, none of us, that's not our wheelhouse. I think that speaking with the community folks that you've talked to and others who may have information on it, we want to make sure that we have weigh-in. And I would not want it to just be for city employees, because we also have county employees who will be working. We'll have other employees who will also be working. And if you have that going on in a household, it gets kind of hairy. So I hope what we would do is cast the net wide, and then if we need to narrow it. But I think if we cast it wide, we won't eliminate anyone in that process.
Excellent. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Commissioner Williams-Cox, you have the floor.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we're beyond the firefighter contract, but there's one thing I wanted to add and then talk about my own personal background. I don't think there's anybody on this dais that has more of a background with unions and collective bargaining than I do in the various capacities that I've served. But the point that I wanted to make is this is a one-year contract, y'all. The firefighters wanted to get off of the same negotiating cycle as the PBA and asked for this one-year contract. That was my understanding. I'm shaking your head no, Mr. City Manager?
No, that's true.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Keep going.
So we obliged, the city obliged, and said, yeah, we will do this one-year contract to get the firefighters off of the 3-year cycle, 3 years cycle that the PBA is on. That's what got us to where we are now with this one-year contract. We have adhered to a state-established process. As you heard, we don't take a vote on anything unless it comes back to us after they have reached impasse and the arbitrator brings a recommendation to us. Along the way, we don't take a vote. And so now where we are is concluding the negotiations for this one-year contract, and then we will begin very soon negotiations for the 3-year contract. So if there are not issues that are resolved, possibly, Mr. City Manager, correct me if I am wrong, in this one-year contract, they can be addressed when the 3-year negotiations begin. And I hope everyone understands that. So I just wanted to add that because I think it's important for everybody to understand this is a one-year contract when we typically do 3-year contracts with our labor union. And so what I wanted to add is just so that folk understand, I come from a labor family. My wife worked for the teachers union for 18 years. 18 years. I have been a member of the union myself, the United Faculty of Florida. I have enjoyed a wonderful relationship with labor unions during all of my elective service on the Leon County School Board, my 8 years in the Florida House of Representatives, and so far, 10 years that I've been on this Tallahassee City Commission. I've enjoyed their support each time I've run for election or re-election because I understand the issues. And I have been supportive of our union. I continue to be supportive of our unions. I was at the event last night in the rain, in the pouring rain, not as a show of gamesmanship or politics, but to indicate my support for our labor union, both teacher and firefighters. That has been the case, and it won't change. But what I will do is respect a process that has been established in law that we are obliged to respect, not to play games with, and have somebody come in with no experience when we've got an individual with years of experience doing this that is negotiating on our behalf. I'm comfortable with where we are. I think that an agreement will be reached for this 1 year, and then soon, in the very near future, the staff will begin the negotiations for the full 3-year contract. And issues like salary and pension, if you reduce the pension contribution, that increases your take-home salary. That makes sense. And so those are the issues that if they're not resolved in this 1-year contract, they will be addressed in the 3-year contract. I support our employees 100%. My wife and I were in a car accident where our car was totaled. Yeah, it was the firefighters, the EMTs that showed up, and you better believe we were damn pleased that they were there. And so, yeah, they have my support have had in the past and will continue to do that. So I just want to make sure that everyone is clear on where Curtis Richardson stands and his position on our labor unions and the invaluable role that they play in so many instances. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Well, first of all, I know that next week is spring break, so I hope everybody has a safe spring break holiday. And I know that this is the end of the legislative session this week as well. And I want to thank everyone in the community, from the businesses to everybody that played a role. I think it was a successful session for our local economy, and certainly do appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one.
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem.
I got carried away. The Gamma Mu Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity is having a community forum on gun violence this coming Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. at Bethel AME Church. I have asked DC Holmes if he will participate, and we've got others that will serve on a panel, including myself, to discuss this issue that's plaguing our community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize.
No worries, no worries. I too want to chime in and say I support our Tallahassee Fire Department, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. As the mayor of Tallahassee, I'm encouraging you to please take it to a vote. 8.5% for the firefighters. I think that is a great place for us to be right now. Mr. Mattamore, I certainly do appreciate all the hard work that you do. You are a foremost expert in the state of Florida on negotiations, and I can't think of anyone better representing the city of Tallahassee along with your team and the city manager on this particular issue. I think, and I want to remind my colleagues to be careful with the spreading of misinformation on all important topics, such as the negotiations, to make sure that we stay on top and that the public truly has the right information to know how we are moving forward as a community. Having said that, I have complete confidence in the process, and I know that we will come to a resolution, and I'm looking forward to coming to a resolution. We have had a great week. It's been the city's bicentennial. I thought Monday was absolutely phenomenal. I want to congratulate the city manager and the leadership team for putting together an incredible celebration outside of City Hall. I was pleased that 4 of us could be there. Jeremy, I was disappointed you wouldn't be there to celebrate the bicentennial, but it is what it is. When it comes to the private event that took place on Saturday, let me be very clear. Whether my wife and I are throwing a party in our backyard or we're throwing a private party in a ballroom here in Tallahassee, if you don't care for what I have to say, you do not have to come to a private event. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our meeting. Thank you.